My wife had an affair with our neighbor, Tom, and I found out she's been secretly stealing $150, $0 from our joint account for months. Then I discovered she's planning to take me to court over our $2 million estate for community property I never knew she'd claim was hers. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, and honestly, I wish I could say I saw it coming, but I didn't. My wife, Emily, always seemed like the perfect girl, smart, beautiful, ambitious. We've been married for about 8 years now, and up until last month, I genuinely thought we had a solid relationship. Sure, we had our disagreements here and there, but nothing that hinted at a betrayal this deep. The first signs that something was off started subtly. Emily became more secretive with her phone, always making sure she was alone when she checked her messages. She'd come up with excuses. I'm just texting my sister, or I'm booking a surprise for your birthday. But I know her better than that. She's not the type to get so sneaky without a reason. I brushed it off at first, telling myself I was just overthinking or maybe she was stressed about work. We were both busy after all. Then about 3 weeks ago, I noticed her spending more money than usual. Not just the usual shopping or dining out, but large sums. $10, zero here, $15, $0 there. It was odd because she always claimed to be frugal, especially when it came to our joint account. I checked the bank statements out of curiosity, and that's when I saw the first huge red flag. Someone had been siphoning off around $150, $0 over the past few months, money I never authorized, never knew about. I couldn't believe it. How could she do that? That same night, I found her phone lying on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I wasn't snooping. I was just curious, thinking maybe she was texting someone she shouldn't. When I looked at her recent messages, my stomach dropped. There were texts back and forth with Tom, our neighbor, talking about meeting up and secret plans. I recognized Tom's name because he's been our neighbor for years, nice guy, always friendly. But these messages weren't friendly. They were flirtatious, suggestive, and downright inappropriate. I felt a cold wave rush over me. I couldn't believe she'd been cheating on me with Tom of all people, right under my nose. I felt sick, angry, betrayed, and honestly devastated. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. My mind was racing, trying to process everything. How long had this been going on? Was it just sex, or was there something more? Why Tom, and how much more was she hiding from me? The worst part was that she lied about everything. When I confronted her the next day, she acted like I was crazy. "You're overreacting," she snapped, her voice sharp and bitchy. "Tom is just a friend, you're paranoid, why would I cheat on you, we're fine." But I saw the guilt in her eyes and I knew she was lying, I could feel it. The way she avoided my gaze, the way she stammered, it was all too obvious. That's when I started digging deeper. I needed to know how far this went. I started tracking the bank accounts, reviewing her phone records, and even hired a private investigator. The more I uncovered, the worse it got. Not only was she cheating, but she'd been secretly stealing money from us, more than I'd ever imagined. And she was planning to take me to court over our estate, claiming she had some community property rights to our $2 million estate that I never knew she thought she owned. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. How could the woman I loved do this? How could she betray me in every way possible, emotionally, financially, morally? I kept asking myself if I had missed the signs, if I was blind or just stupid for trusting her. But deep down, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with it. Not just the affair, but the money, the lies, the manipulation. I had to find a way to fight back, to get justice for myself. That's where I am now, trying to figure out my next move. I know I need to act fast, but I'm also trying to keep my head clear. This mess isn't just about money or sex, it's about betrayal on every level. And I honestly don't know if I'll ever be able to trust her again. After discovering everything, I felt like my world was crumbling around me. The betrayal cut deep, but what hit me hardest was the realization that I'd been blind to it all for so long. Emily, my wife, had always been the picture of perfection, until I found out she'd been sneaking around with Tom and stealing from us at the same time. It was like some sick, twisted double life she'd been leading, right under my nose. The first thing I did was sit down and go through every piece of evidence I had gathered. I printed out the bank statements, saved the messages from her phone, and made notes of every suspicious transaction. I also tracked her movements. She'd been going out late, meeting Tom in places I never knew about, and coming back with a nervous energy that didn't match her usual calm. It all added up to a picture I didn't want to face. My wife was not only cheating, but she was also actively stealing from us. I remembered the moment I saw her lying about Tom. Her tone sharp and dismissive. "You're overreacting," she said, and I could see her trying to cover her tracks, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was lying and I needed to confront her with everything I had. That same night I sat her down in the living room and I told her I knew about Tom, about the money, about everything. Her reaction was instant, her face twisted into a sneer. "You don't have any proof," she spat. "You're just jealous. Tom's just a friend and you're paranoid. You're crazy, nothing is going on." I looked her straight in the eyes and laid out all the evidence I'd collected. Her face turned red, then pale. She started to stammer, trying to deny everything, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid because I didn't trust her. But I knew better. I knew she was lying, and I knew she had been planning to take everything from me. The emotional roller coaster hit me hard. I went from anger to sadness, then back to fury. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and stupid. For not seeing it sooner. How could I have missed all the signs? I'd been so wrapped up in our life, in our plans, that I didn't see the truth lurking right under my nose. The thought that she'd been secretly siphoning money for months made my stomach churn. I realized I'd been a fool to trust her blindly. In the days that followed, I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake replaying everything, 1,000 questions without answers. How long had she been planning this? Was Tom just a pawn, or was he part of something bigger? I also started to think about the future, what I was going to do about the money, about her plans to take me to court over our estate. She'd always been bitchy when cornered, but now she was desperate, throwing out lies and accusations to cover her tracks. She kept insisting she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, but her actions told a different story. I decided to hire a lawyer, someone who specialized in family law and estate disputes. I wanted to understand my rights, especially since she was claiming some kind of community property over our estate. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation. She's always been good at lying, twisting things around, making herself look innocent. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I'd fought for everything I had built, and I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, I started planning my next steps. I knew I had to gather more evidence, confront Tom, and prepare for the inevitable legal battle. I also realized I needed to protect myself emotionally. The betrayal had shaken me to my core, and I felt like I was walking around in a daze. I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me, at least not yet. I needed to keep my composure, stay calm, and be strategic. Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Part of me wants to just walk away, forget her, and start over somewhere new. But another part, the stubborn part, insists I fight to the end. I've been betrayed so deeply that I don't think I can ever trust her again. But I also know that I need to get my life back, to reclaim what's mine, and to make sure she doesn't take everything I've worked for. This whole thing has made me realize how fragile trust really is, and how quickly everything can fall apart when lies and deceit are involved. I'm trying to stay focused, but I won't lie. There are moments when I feel completely broken. Still, I know I have to keep going for myself if nothing else. I just hope I can come out of this stronger, because right now I feel like I'm hanging on by a thread. The more I dug into her financials and her phone, the more I realized how deeply she'd been lying. It wasn't just the affair with Tom. It was the way she'd been systematically stealing money, covering her tracks, and planning her next move. I found receipts for luxury trips she never mentioned, payments to shady accounts, and even some offshore transfers that made my head spin. It was clear she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The day after I confronted her, I decided I needed to get serious. I called my lawyer, a guy named Mark who had a reputation for handling complicated estate disputes and infidelity cases. I explained everything: her affair, the theft, her plans to take me to court. Mark was calm but firm, telling me I had a strong case to protect my assets and to prove her deception. I was grateful I'd kept detailed records because I knew those would be crucial in court. Meanwhile, I also started to gather evidence against Tom. I hired a private investigator, someone I found through a recommendation. I wanted to know exactly what Tom's role was in all this. Over the next week, the Pi followed him around, watching his meetings, his whereabouts, and even recording some of their conversations. It turned out Tom wasn't just a neighbor. He was involved in some shady financial schemes himself. That added a new layer of complexity. This wasn't just a simple affair. It was part of something bigger, possibly criminal. All this was happening while Emily doubled down on her lies. She kept insisting she loved me, that Tom was just a friend, and that I was paranoid. She'd throw tantrums, call me controlling, accuse me of spying on her, and try to turn everything around on me. "You're just insecure," she spat during one of our heated arguments. "You don't trust me, and that's why you're acting crazy." I wanted to scream at her, tell her I wasn't crazy, I was just tired of her lies. But I kept my cool, knowing that every word I said could be used against me later. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I was losing my mind some days. How could she do this? How could she betray me, steal from us, and then lie so effortlessly? I'd loved her for so long, and now I was questioning everything. I started to see her in a new light: bitchy, manipulative, and utterly selfish. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. The woman I married was turning into a stranger, and I was left to pick up the pieces. One night, I sat alone in our living room, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. I thought about the life we built, our house, our savings, our future, and how it was all under threat now. I knew she was planning to claim her community property rights to our estate, and I had to prepare for that fight. If she succeeded, she could walk away with a significant chunk of our assets, assets I'd worked hard to accumulate. That thought enraged me. I'd always been the breadwinner, the one putting in the hours, taking risks, building our wealth. And now she was trying to take it all away with her lies and manipulations. I decided I needed to be proactive. I reached out to a forensic accountant, someone who specialized in uncovering hidden assets and tracing financial fraud. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly, following the money trail. I also started drafting a legal strategy: how to protect my estate, how to counter her claims, and how to expose her lies. It was exhausting, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to fight for what was mine and for my dignity. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep my emotions in check. Every time I thought about her, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I loved her once, but now I couldn't see her the same way. The betrayal was too deep. I wondered how I could even look at her in the eye again, how I could rebuild trust after she'd lied, cheated, and stolen from me. I also wondered if I should tell our friends or family, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. I didn't want to look weak, but I also didn't want to carry this burden alone. There's a part of me that still hopes she'll come clean, admit everything, and maybe even ask for forgiveness. But deep down, I know that's unlikely. She's been so good at hiding her true nature for so long. And now I see her for what she really is: selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything just to get what she wants. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I won't let her ruin me. Not without a fight. The legal process is a nightmare. Every day feels like a battle, trying to stay one step ahead of her lies and manipulations. I've got my lawyer, Mark, working tirelessly, but I can tell she's already trying to spin things her way. She's claiming I'm paranoid, accusing me of stalking her, and trying to paint herself as the victim. It's infuriating. She's always been good at twisting the truth, but now it's on full display. The worst part is her attempt to claim community property over our estate. She keeps insisting that because we live together and share finances, she has some right to half of everything: our house, our savings, investments, everything. But I know the law better than she thinks. I've been reading up on estate laws and I have a strong case to prove she's been embezzling money and that her claims are baseless. Still, it's nerve-wracking knowing she's throwing everything she has to try and take what isn't hers. Meanwhile, I got the forensic accountant back with their report. It's worse than I feared. They uncovered a complex web of hidden accounts, offshore transfers, and shell companies she set up to hide the stolen money. It's like she was planning this for a long time. I sat there staring at the spreadsheets, feeling sick. I had no idea she was capable of this level of deception. I always thought she was just a little high maintenance, but now I see she's a master manipulator. I also managed to get the private investigator's footage. There's clear evidence of her meeting Tom in secret, late at night, in places I never knew about. I saw them exchanging envelopes, talking quietly in the shadows. It's undeniable now, she's been cheating on me with Tom and she's been lying about it the entire time. I felt a rage building inside me. How dare she do this? How dare she betray me, lie to my face, and steal from us? Honestly, I've been oscillating between fury and despair. I keep asking myself what I did wrong, how I missed all these signs, how I was so blind. I loved her so much, and now I realize I never really knew her at all. It's a crushing realization. I'm trying to stay strong, but some nights I just lie awake, feeling like I've been punched in the gut. I thought I was building a life with her, but now I see it was all a carefully constructed lie. The financial damage is devastating. She's drained almost all of our savings and the legal bills are piling up. I'm worried she's going to try and drag this out as long as possible, hoping I'll give up or that she can manipulate her way out of it. But I won't let her. I've got too much at stake. My reputation, my future, the money I've worked so hard to earn. I've also started to consider my options for a fresh start. Maybe I should just walk away, sell everything, and start over somewhere new. It's tempting, honestly. The idea of leaving this all behind and never looking back. But part of me wants justice. I want her to face the consequences of what she's done. I want her to know she can't just betray me and walk away unscathed. I'm also thinking about how to protect myself legally, getting a court order to freeze her assets, subpoenaing her bank records, and making sure she can't hide any more money. I've never been more determined to fight for what's mine. One thing I've realized through all this is how fragile trust is. You think you know someone and then they turn out to be someone entirely different. I trusted her with my life, my money, my heart, and she turned around and stabbed me in the back. It's a lesson I won't forget. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at her the same way again. But I also know I have to be strong for myself and for whatever future I decide to build. Right now, I'm just trying to keep my emotions in check. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Other days, I'm filled with a quiet, simmering rage that fuels me to keep fighting. I know this isn't going to be easy, but I refuse to let her win. I will see this through, no matter how ugly it gets. The betrayal has left scars I'll carry forever, but I'm determined to come out on the other side still standing. The court date is set, and the tension is unbearable. Every morning I wake up feeling like I'm about to face a battle I can't win, knowing that Emily has been scheming behind my back for months. She's hired her own lawyer, of course, some slick attorney who's already trying to spin her version of events, claiming that I've been controlling, that she's entitled to half of everything because we're married. She's good at lying, I'll give her that. But I've got the evidence and I know the law. The day I handed over all my documentation, bank statements, the forensic accountant's reports, the private investigator's footage, was one of the most nerve-wracking moments I've ever experienced. Watching her lawyer's face as they reviewed the evidence, I saw the flicker of doubt. She was scrambling to come up with excuses. But there was no hiding the truth. Emily had been secretly stealing from us, lying about her affair, and planning to claim a share of my estate that she had no right to. She tried to deny everything in court, of course. Her lawyer argued that the money was a gift, that her affair was just a misunderstanding, and that I was paranoid. Emily herself sat there with her head held high, her eyes cold and calculating. She kept insisting she loved me, that I was overreacting, that Tom was just a friend, just a business associate, she said with a smirk, but I knew better. I'd seen the texts, the receipts, the meetings, and the shadows. There was no denying it anymore. The judge listened patiently, flipping through the evidence. I felt a strange mixture of hope and dread. Hope because I knew I had a solid case. Dread because I knew she would fight dirty and she was capable of anything. Emily's claims about community property were shot down quickly. Her lawyer's attempts to twist the law were unconvincing. My lawyer argued that the money was stolen, that her affair was a betrayal, and that she had no right to claim part of what I had built. The courtroom was tense. Emily's bitchy attitude was on full display. She rolled her eyes, sneered at me, and shot venomous glances. I could feel my blood boiling. I wanted to tell her she was a liar, a thief, and a cheating slut, but I kept my composure. I had to, for myself, for my reputation, and for the future I was fighting to protect. When the judge finally announced the ruling, I could barely believe my ears. She ordered Emily to return the stolen money, to pay damages, and to cease her claims on the estate. It was a small victory, but it felt like a huge weight off my shoulders. I sat there in stunned silence, watching her face twist in anger and frustration. She knew she'd lost, and she didn't take it well. Her bitchy side came out in full force, throwing accusations and insults as she was led out of the courtroom. Walking out of there, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The legal battle was over for now, but the emotional scars ran deep. I had lost trust in the woman I once loved, and I knew it would take a long time to heal. Still, I was proud of myself for standing up and fighting back. I'd uncovered the truth, exposed her lies, and protected what was mine. Now I'm left with a lot of questions. Do I try to salvage what's left of our marriage? Can I forgive her, or even want to? Or is it better to cut ties completely and move on? Honestly, I don't have the answer yet. Part of me still hopes she'll realize what she's lost and come clean, but I'm not naive. I know she's capable of anything, and I can't trust her anymore. The most important thing I've learned through all this is that trust is fragile. It can be broken in a second, and once it's shattered, it's almost impossible to fix. I've also learned that money can be a powerful motivator. Greed, betrayal, and lies all intertwined. And I've realized that standing up for yourself, even when it seems impossible, is the only way to reclaim some sense of control. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let this ruin me. I'm planning to rebuild, to start fresh somewhere new, and to leave this nightmare behind. It's going to take time, and I'll probably carry these scars forever, but I'm determined to find a way forward. Because at the end of the day, I still believe in justice, and I refuse to let her betrayal define me. Now that the court case is behind me, I've had some time to reflect on everything. Honestly, it's been a brutal journey, one I never expected to be on. I thought I knew Emily, thought we had a future built on trust and shared dreams. Turns out, I was living with someone who was constantly scheming behind my back, stealing from us, and lying about her feelings. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's also a harsh lesson in how fragile relationships can be when greed and betrayal take over. Since the verdict, I've started to piece my life back together. I sold the house, cut ties with the remnants of our shared life, and moved to a quiet place where no one knows my story. It's been cathartic, being away from the toxic environment she created and focusing solely on rebuilding myself. I've come to realize that I was so caught up in trying to be the perfect husband that I overlooked the signs of her deception. I trusted her blindly, and that trust was exploited in ways I never imagined. The emotional scars are still there, and I don't think they'll ever fully go away. I find myself sometimes waking up in the middle of the night, replaying the betrayal over and over. But I've also learned to forgive myself for trusting her, for not seeing the signs sooner, for thinking I could fix what was broken. Forgiveness isn't about excusing her actions. It's about freeing myself from the pain and anger that have been holding me back. In the end, I chose to focus on my own healing. I've started therapy, which has helped me process the betrayal and rebuild my confidence. I've also begun to reconnect with friends and family, people who genuinely care and remind me of who I am outside of this nightmare. Slowly, I'm learning to trust again, though not blindly this time. I'm more cautious, more aware, and more determined to protect myself from people who might do me harm. Looking back, I realize that this experience has changed me forever. It's made me more cautious, yes, but also more resilient. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again. I've learned that money, power, and lies can corrupt even the most seemingly perfect lives. And I've learned that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way out if you're willing to fight for it. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how small. Be vigilant and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define your entire life. You can come out stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. I may have lost my marriage, but I've gained a new perspective, and that's worth more than anything. So I close this chapter knowing I did everything I could. I fought for my future, protected what was mine, and refused to let betrayal consume me. Life goes on. It's not about forgetting what happened, but about learning from it and moving forward. And that's exactly what I plan to do.